Is God a genocidal maniac, or is he a righteous judge? That's what we're going to talk about in this one. See, the world calls the flood genocide. The reality of it is, it was judgment after 120 years of warning. That's how long it took Noah to build the ark. 120 years. How many chances does a loving God need to give before people finally listen? See, God didn't snap his fingers. He gave them longer than most countries have existed. They chose violence. They chose evil. Judgment came, but here's the truth they ignore. Well, what about the children? Look, earthly judges understand kids can't make competent moral choices. A 5-year-old doesn't stand trial as an adult. So how much more does a perfect God understand that? Those kids weren't punished. They were instantly brought into God's presence. Death for them was mercy, not wrath. Because had he not taken them, they would have grown up in a pagan society where they would have been taught pagan rituals and pagan worship and then been carried off to hell. Next, Egypt. Genocide or judgment? Pharaoh enslaved God's people for hundreds of years, over 400. And he killed their babies. Remember the story of Moses? God sent 9 plagues with clear warnings. Pharaoh hardened his heart every single time. The 10th plague was the consequence of stubborn rebellion. But the innocent firstborn kids, same answer. God doesn't hold children accountable for what they can't understand. They went straight from Egypt into the Father's arms. See, if we as flawed humans protect kids because they lack moral knowledge, don't you think an all-knowing God does it perfectly? Another big one, Canaan. Genocide or judgment? Critics scream genocide. But God told Abraham that the Canaanites would get 400 years before judgment because their sin hadn't reached full measure yet. 400 years. The same amount of time that the Hebrews were enslaved in Egypt. 400 years of patience, 400 years to turn around. They filled the land with child sacrifice, incest, bestiality, every kind of depravity. The land itself was vomiting them out. God didn't rush it. He waited longer than America has been a country. Calling that genocide is like calling a prison sentence murder. It's not the same thing. One is murder, the other is justice. And those Canaanite children, once again, they couldn't choose good from evil. Our own courts recognize this. God, being infinitely wiser, certainly does. Those little ones weren't condemned. They were rescued and brought home to him. Here's the bottom line. Either God is a maniac who randomly slaughters kids, or he's a judge who patiently warns for decades and or centuries, then acts with perfect justice while protecting the innocent by bringing them straight into his presence. Which one actually matches what the Bible shows? The patient, righteous judge, the one who understands innocence better than any human court ever could. If the earthly judge can tell the difference, how much more can God? And I'll go a step deeper. Look at our society today and hold that up against the societies that we see getting judged by God in the Old Testament. And tell me, how long has he been patient? And how long do you think his patience will last? It's time to turn it around. We'll see you on the next one.